Hey there guys, welcome to my blind playthrough of Silent Hill F. So, this game, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as good as Silent Hill 2 Remake, because based on what I saw with the gameplay, it just looked so unfinished with this particular game. It felt like I was watching gameplay from, like, the 1980s, because of the way the animations looked, the way the flinch animations were practically non-existent, and then with some of the other weird things with the gameplay, but like, at least the voice acting is certainly better in this game compared to every other Silent Hill game in existence, so I have no idea who they hired for the voice direction of this particular game, but at least they actually hired someone with experience compared to voice directors they hired for the previous Silent Hill games, or all of them, because the voice acting in the Silent Hill series is absolutely atrocious. But based on what I saw with the trailers, the voice acting certainly seems better, and the fact that it's in Japanese is even better, given that the studio that developed Silent Hill is a Japanese company. So I don't really have the best expectations with this particular game, but that remains to be seen. I might think differently as I go through this, but who knows? Let's just get into this. Okay, so set it to hard. I hate how they use the term action horror. Action horror just feels very stigmatizing. Survival horror is a type of action, guys. A lot of the survival horror games that people call survival horror, they have very similar gameplay to typical action games. It's just, it's presented with a different sort of ambiance to it. Resident Evil 1 Remake feels more like an action game than a survival horror game, with how much you're going through that game knife only, and not really worrying about inventory and just doing really silly things with the enemies. It's practically no different to Mirror's Edge, but just running past the enemies. Again, action horror is such a dumb terminology, and by coining the term action horror, you're making the implication that games with more combat or fluid mechanics are somehow less legitimate horror experiences. When you create such labels like action horror, you risk stigmatizing such games as though they're not real survival horror or are somehow corrupted versions of the genre. Furthermore, the creation of such a term also oversimplifies the diversity of horror design. Horror thrives on a spectrum, not on arbitrary marketing labels. Like, you don't go to Alien Isolation, for instance, and use the term stealth horror. If people don't see the need to create a term like stealth horror, then why the hell should we be creating terms like action horror? It makes no sense. And using such terminology only elucidates the sheer ignorance of individuals who don't understand what survival horror is, or what horror means in general. And based on what I've seen with the gameplay of Silent Hill F, if you're going to be calling this game an action horror game, you might as well be calling the older Resident Evil titles action horror games, and therefore disprove every single fake Resident Evil player's idea of what survival horror versus action horror is. And you can also do the same with the older Silent Hill games. If you're calling this game an action horror game, you might as well call the older Silent Hill games action horror games. This is why I always cringe when I hear the term action horror, because action horror is one of the stupidest terms I have ever heard in gaming history. And I can't help but feel like the use of the term action horror only casts a lampshade on how potentially bad Silent Hill F will be. But anyway, I'm setting it to hard difficulty, which seems to be the only difficulty so far. I don't know if there's an unlockable difficulty. I'll set the puzzles to story difficulty, just like what I did with Silent Hill 2 Remake. Let's get into this. I've set the language to Japanese, because not listening to the local language of a game is pretty stupid. People need to get used to listening to things in foreign languages when you're talking about the original format.
私は一人でも全然寂しくないの。仲間外れなんか気にしないもん。ひなこ?
Already, this sounds like compelling voice acting, not like the shit we got in the previous Silent Hill games, with the way the actors poorly enunciated words, spoke with a very monotone tone of voice, and didn't really react to their environments in a way that made sense. I get flashbacks to the way James was acting in Silent Hill 2 Remake. It felt like someone was groping around in my head. That was one of the dumbest lines from Silent Hill 2 Remake. And by the way, this game was available to play early if you pre-ordered the game, but I didn't do that. I just got the game now, so I wasn't able to play the game early. Not that it would have mattered, because I have been extremely busy, not just with work, but because I've had to assume additional responsibilities in the house. So it has taken up a lot of the time I could be spending actually creating YouTube content, but I'll be able to devote more time to the YouTube videos next week.
男の子と遊ぶ子はおままごとに入れてあげないだって。じゃあ、お姉ちゃんと一緒におままごとしよっか。
Onecha means big sister. And I gotta say, guys, the graphics on this game, I mean, these seem like pre-rendered cutscenes, not really like in-game graphic cinematics. When I saw the trailers for Silent Hill F, the graphics looked inferior to Silent Hill 2 Remake, and I don't understand why. Like, that initial shot of James in the bathroom at the start of the game, and you saw the detail on his hands, that looks more impressive than anything else in this game. And I don't know why, but when I was looking at the trailers for Silent Hill F, I was getting Evil Within 2 vibes with the way the game looked. But, I mean, this game doesn't even look as good as Evil Within 2, or even like Ghostwire Tokyo, which were Tango Gameworks games.
お待たせ。お姉ちゃん。何かいいことでもあった？昔を思い出してた。
Yeah, this game just doesn't look very good with its graphics. It's disappointing.
小さい頃からずっとお姉ちゃんだったんだなって。
But again, I like the voice acting so far. It actually feels like normal people are talking, and I can actually feel invested with the scenes when I have good voice acting and good music playing, not like stupid jazz music and terrible voice acting playing in the previous Silent Hill games. And is it just me, or is the frame rate kind of stuttering during this pre-rendered cutscene, or it's like the frame pacing? Like, I'm noticing a bit of stuttering happening. I mean, I set the game to performance mode, but I'm guessing these cinematics operate independently from the quality and performance modes.
ひなこ、私ね。これ。 お姉ちゃんにあげる。綺麗だわ。ありがとう。
They're not showing Junko's face. Yeah, already this feels so tonally different to the previous Silent Hill games. You wouldn't even think it's part of the same series with the music and the ambiance and the voice acting. I forget what the name of this town is. The rain stopped for some reason.
Hinako! 親に向かってその言い草は何だ。
お父さんやめてください。
純子、あんなにも高校娘なのに、どうして妹の前は何もかも正反対なんだ。
Yeah, I can see in that picture Hinako is distant from her family.
どこ行く？話はまだ終わってないぞ、ひなこ。
お父さん、ひなこだって分かってくれてますよ。
分かってたらどうしてあの態度になるんだ。
They're really trying to put an emphasis on only showing Hinako's face and not the other characters. I wonder why.
これも全部お前がひなこをずっと甘やかしてきたからだろう。
ひなこ、お父さんはね、
And even then, like, they're blurring her face right here. It's so odd. I wonder what they're trying to go for with this stylistic choice to actually hide their faces. I know in the trailers we see other characters and we can actually see their faces, so I'm guessing maybe it's just her family that has their faces hidden, just to showcase how distant Hinako is from them.
あなたのためを思って。
友達のとこ行ってくる。
早めに帰っておいでね。
Okay, journal updated. Okay, so you have a dedicated personal journal now. Shimizu Hinako. Me, there's not a single extraordinary thing about me, except maybe being tall for a girl my age. Really? That's unusual to be that tall. I used to be in the track and field club, which is probably why I'm better at sports than most girls. I guess I got used to running around a lot when I was a kid, since I preferred playing with boys. I will admit, I can be quite stubborn at times. I don't like accepting things that other people decide for me, even if it's the right thing to do. More than once I've rebelled and made the wrong decision, only to regret it later. Shimizu Kimie. My mother, if I had to choose one word to describe her, it would be pitiful. She's the one who bears the brunt of my father's violent moods and malicious abuse. You know, this reminds me of, what was her name, Angela from Silent Hill 2, where she had the father and, was it her uncle? I don't recall. I think it was her father and brother who had raped her. And that's why you see that manifestation, that abstract daddy, because it's like the combination of her father and brother. It's meant to be a symbolic representation of her fear. So they're doing something similar here, but it's obviously just abuse, not really like rape. When I was younger, she used to protect me from him, so I didn't hate her back then, but maybe I do hate her now, even as my father screams in her face, throws bowls at her, and sends her out for alcohol late at night. She remains ever loyal to him. I just cannot, will not accept her way of life. Unfortunately, that is the case with a lot of abusive marriages. Hinako needs to understand that. You know, it's often said in psychology when it comes to sexual predators that the mother is often the silent partner in the case of child molestation, because she often invites the sexual predators into the home because she's lonely. It's something I learned back in my undergrad. My father, when I first learned of the term patriarchal husband and that it meant a man who does nothing but boss his wife around, he was the first person to come to mind. Dad barely talks. You should be calling him father, not dad. Dad is more personal, father is more distant. Father barely talks. He ignores me when I tell him good morning, but if I say nothing, he gets angry instead. Yeah, that is the case with some people. They oftentimes favor a disproportionate emotion, regardless of what you do. It's a no-win scenario. And once he's angry, he just explodes. He loses all control over his emotions in the blink of an eye. He yells at mom, throws things around, and even hits us. Why can't he act like that in public? Why does everyone else only get to see his quiet, calm side? Because unfortunately, that is the case where how you act personally is different to your work life. It's similar to the psychological process known as doubling. People are really good at separating their personal side from their professional side, unless they have like a mental illness or they really let that personal side and professional side blur if enough stress is put upon them. If it meant that I wouldn't have to spend another second with him in that house, I'd happily let myself be taken away. Kinuta Junko. Okay, so this time her first name's different. My older sister, she's one of the prettiest and kindest people I know, and there's nothing she can't do. I can rely on her for anything. Honestly, she's the greatest sister anyone could ask for. She's always been there for me ever since the day I was born, until she left to get married.
会ってたまるか。そんなこと。
Yeah, this game just doesn't look very good compared to Silent Hill 2 Remake. What's with the downgrade? This downgrade is terrible.
いつもお姉ちゃんと眺めてた景色。
Oh. Okay, so you just get these dynamic events, so if you just observe an area, you get these journal entries. I live in the small rural town of Abisugaoka. Before the war, the town was lively due to an influx of people coming for the coal mines and dam construction going on in the northern mountains. After the dam construction finished and the coal mine closed down, it just became a sad little town. The grand iron bridge that connects the town to the nearby city is the only reminder of this sorry town's former glory.
姉ちゃんが恋しい。
At least the item detection's better. The item detection in Silent Hill 2 Remake was terrible. Article, Serious Issues in Abisugaoka. April 21st, Showa 20, 1945, Evening Edition. The onsen geyser that suddenly started spewing water on the 3rd of this month in Iwashimizu, Abisugaoka of Yamabe District finally came to a stop early this morning. The geyser reached a height of at least 30 meters, but the ceaseless noise and pungent hydrogen sulfide gas have left residents troubled. Hydrogen sulfide, but I thought that only existed in areas that had or currently have volcanic activity. At least that's based on what the Baker incident report said in Resident Evil Village. I assume it was hydrogen sulfide that they tried to use as a cover story to cover up the Baker incident. 3 individuals have been hospitalized with complaints of skin sores and other maladies they claim were caused by the gas. In addition, strong concentrations of arsenic have been detected in the geyser's water, 20 milligrams per liter. Many residents have concerns about future environmental issues this might lead to. Now, it is interesting that they're giving lore on the actual town.
土砂崩れで通れない昔はここ登ったな
You know, I remember in Silent Hill 2 Remake finding it very strange how you were getting information on Silent Hill itself, because Silent Hill 2 Remake was a personally centric story. It was character-centric, not really story-centric, I would be saying. Like, it was a personally driven narrative, so there wasn't really a need to learn about the city of Silent Hill, because what's the whole point of that information if it doesn't contribute to James as a character? Local doctors note there have been sightings of foxes coming into town recently. I'm sure that the older generations who have grown up learning to respect foxes are fine, but I'm concerned for any children who may try and chase or provoke the creatures. Foxes by nature are not aggressive, but just like wild dogs, they carry diseases such as rabies, tetanus, and echinococcus? Really? I never thought I'd hear a game mention Echinococcus granulosus. To name just a few, the town committee should send out warnings to ensure people don't get unnecessarily close to them. You know, I just don't understand why the voice acting and the writing in the Silent Hill games is terrible with the way everything just feels so inhuman. It doesn't feel like real people are talking or writing things. Yeah, they had some really bizarre voice directors and other directors with the previous Silent Hill games. But despite all that, Silent Hill 2 Remake was a fun game. I really enjoyed it. It was such a massive improvement over Silent Hill 2 OG. Silent Hill 2 OG was just filled with a lot of really bizarre, really silly elements. Okay, so you use shrines now instead of just a random supernatural red square.
神様私は
It's a Hokora.
どうしたら
So it seems like the start of this game is before the fog rolls in. So it's like before all the supernatural elements start occurring, whereas in the Silent Hill games of prior, the characters always arrived in Silent Hill when the supernatural events are occurring, because they're just drawn to the town. Silent Hill actually draws them to the town and draws upon their personal demons. At least with Silent Hill 2.
ないな千鶴屋なら誰か来てるかな
It's nice that she's talking more. Like, the characters in the previous Silent Hill games, they never talked or made these kind of, like, silent remarks. That's something I noticed a lot in the trailers for Silent Hill F. Like, Hinako was actually making a lot of these remarks, like voicing things out loud, because that's how people can talk when they're alone, because they have to fill the dead air. Serious issues in Abisugaoka. Starting around May, Abisugaoka began seeing a high number of small earthquakes. The Prefectural Disaster Prevention Division predicts that there will be even more in the future. Residents remain on edge, fearful that these may be early warning signs of a larger earthquake yet to come. Rumors that these events are being caused by Inari-sama's curse have been spreading among the more religiously minded of the elderly population. However, the Prefectural Disaster Prevention Division is urging residents to treat such rumors as superstition and instead prepare for any potential disasters ahead. Well, the problem with these rural towns in pretty much every part of the world is that they're easily the victims of religion and superstition, or they're the victims of disinformation and misinformation in the context of politics, in the context of science. Just, go on the news or go to any independent YouTube channel that covers very severe things related to politics, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Like with More Perfect Union, that YouTube channel. It's also pretty interesting how there's no music playing. This is definitely different for a Silent Hill game with its introduction.
すいません
Sumimasen.
運転手さんいませんか 他の道を探そう
She was going to see her friends, but again, there's nobody here. So she's seemingly already in the dream world. Because it really seems like the Silent Hill games treat everything like a dream, and interestingly, Hinako is actually questioning what's occurring, whereas the other characters in the Silent Hill games never do, which is just another great example of how bizarre the characters feel in those games. They don't feel human with the way they react to certain things. It's almost like they have reduced activity in their prefrontal cortex, which is what normally happens when you're in dreams. So like, you know, the times where you notice inconsistencies in dreams and yet you still go along with it, it's because you have reduced activity in your prefrontal cortex, so you don't have the executive functions necessary to realize that you're actually in a dream. You just go along with it instead. Yeah, again, she's talking, and I like that. Though it is pretty odd that she's going this way. I guess that car was in the way.
絶対に呪いよ。あんなひどい死に方あるわけないもの。私なら絶対に嫌。そんな家。噂をすれば何とやらないの。
I'm surprised she's not questioning who she was hearing. If she asked, where is everyone?
裏切り者。サクコ、どこ行くの？こっち通るの珍しいね。車が道を塞いでてさ。千鶴や？今は誰かと喋りたくて。私も後から行くね。うん。じゃあね。裏切り者。
She's not gonna question why she's saying traitor. Weird. Igarashi Sakuko. One of my friends. She always got her head up in the clouds and is a little strange. She's constantly trying to worm her way out of paying me back for the 500 yen I lent her that one time. And how much exactly is 500 yen? $3.34. Yeah, that is very, very cheap. Her father is the head priest of the Senensugi shrine in town. She seems to take great pride in donning the traditional Miko robes and selling charms during the New Year celebrations. Alright guys, so it's currently September 27th. I'm having to redo certain parts of this blind playthrough because I had a capture failure. Certain videos got corrupted for no reason. So unfortunately, it's not going to be a blind playthrough currently because I got all the way up to the part where you fight that manifestation of Sakuko. I don't know why I get these capture failures occasionally. It seems to happen with the larger videos where I guess I closed my PS5 too soon before the full video's been rendered or something. But it's really obnoxious. I have no idea why it happens like this, but anyway, I'm just going to go over the cutscenes and certain files. I mean, it's not like I really got anything important from the cutscenes though, so yeah, whatever. Let's just pretend that we're doing the blind playthrough again. So anyway, we have this entry on Shu. Shu's been my best friend since forever. He's my partner. We've been having playdates for as long as I can remember. When we played make-believe Space Wars, we'd call each other partner, and for some reason it just kind of stuck. Kids of the Showa era tend to look down on the other sex, but never Shu. When I rebelled against my parents because they told me to act like a girl, he was the one who understood my feelings the most and stood by me. So unfortunately, guys, I know a lot of the story already because, again, I got to a later point, but I had certain pieces of my blind playthrough get corrupted for no reason. And I had also looked up the plot of the game online on Wikipedia, so I understand the different endings, I understand what occurs. I mean, I haven't seen the actual footage of the events, just the summary.
Yo, Aibo. あのさ、
なんか言ってよ。
お前こそなんか言うことはないのかよ。
相棒にないんだったら私にだってない。
お前らしいや。受 け身な生き方なんてお前らしくないぜ。お前が自分で選んだ道なら俺はいつまでも応援するからな。
シュウくん、お待たせ。ひなこもいたんだ。リンコ、何の話をしてたの？いや、大した話は。誰かとおしゃべりしたい気持ちだったんだって。気が紛れたよ。それはよかった。お役に立てて光栄の極み。会えると分かってたら借りてた雑誌持ってくればよかった。ああ、貸したままでいいよ。リンコに貸した時点で戻ってくると思ってないし。
So I already acknowledged this before, but the voice acting and the way the dialogue is set up, it actually feels like natural conversations between teenagers compared to what it would be like in the previous Silent Hill games with their bizarre writing.
笑いすぎだよ。サクコだってひなこから何か借りてるんじゃないの？私なんかあったかな？
The 500 yen.
ねえひなこ、じゃあ私が借りてる500円も返さなくていいよね？サクコ利子つけて返すとか言ってなかった？言ってないよ。消耗あんなら出してみろ。いいこと聞いた。これからはサクコに貸すとき消しゴム。
And then for some reason the fog rolls in, and is no one just recognizing the fog's rolling in? It seems to be only Hinako, and you know, I actually realized something during this playthrough, because I actually realized something during this playthrough, but the way the manifestations look to each character, they're supposed to look differently to them. So how how certain manifestations look in Hinako's eyes may look differently to other characters, but I don't think they show such moments in the game. That's at least a lore point that Silent Hill 2 established and other Silent Hill games established, where certain enemies and certain parts of the world look different to one character between characters. But I don't think this game has that.
ひなこ、あ、ごめん。何？裏切りも。
Why aren't you running? Yeah, there are some weird moments where even when I'm holding L1, she doesn't run. But this fog monster is apparently some manifestation that wears a Shiromoku, which is a wedding outfit. I'm still not sure what it is. So there is a trophy for doing this entire part without taking damage. By the way, I also changed the puzzle difficulty to Lost in the Fog. And there is actually a Lost in the Fog difficulty for the actual action, but you have to be on New Game Plus to play it for some weird reason. You just have to wait here for some unknown person to send down a ladder. You hear the laughter in the music? It's an interesting addition. Or it's not laughter, it's like ululating. I don't know the pronunciation for that. So the game doesn't actually want you to use the red capsules, because apparently if you use a red capsule, it prevents you from getting certain endings. And on your first playthrough, you can only get one ending, and then on New Game Plus, you can get different endings. But the endings depend upon you not using the red capsules. Not like it matters in my case, because I've just been restarting. And sadly, you can't restart checkpoint on this game. You can only quit to the title menu and then reload, which is really stupid. I don't know why we're still embracing this model of restarting checkpoints by quitting to the title menu. But this is where we're going to be running past enemies, and you can pretty much run past like most of the enemies on this game. So funny how it calls itself an action horror game when there's never a need to deal with any enemies. You can just run past them most of the time. There's only like one mandatory encounter coming up where we have to kill 3 of these particular enemies. But for the most part, you'll just be running past the enemies. There's never a need to indulge in the combat, and the combat's just very clunky. Yeah. The enemies are also pretty passive. Of course, I don't know if this changes on Lost in the Fog difficulty. And you have to go up here, but you can also go this way to get a file, but it spawns in 2 enemies. There are cases where patients see an improvement in their symptoms not by taking medicine, but rather by simply talking to a doctor. The cause of this phenomenon lies undeniably in the trust fostered between practitioner and patient. Conclusively, the pharmacists who have been trusted since ancient times perhaps could be said to contain a similar power to that of the local gods here. Even among the younger generations of this town, there are many who believe praying to Oinari-san will soothe pain and speed up the healing process. Once forward to the faith is thought to have direct relation to potency. There are even some town elders who claim to have had broken bones miraculously mended after praying to Oinari-san. Yeah, so this enemy's here, as well as another enemy behind you. And you are not invulnerable when you mantle, and it takes Hinako ages to mantle. She's so slow with her actions. It feels unnaturally slow with certain animations. It's like there's an enemy right there, like why is it taking you so long to complete that mantle animation? It just makes no sense. This is actually the face of the enemy we encountered. You didn't have to go this way. I think this enemy is always programmed to attack. Yeah, the movement on this game is also pretty bad. Hinako gets stuck a lot because of how rigid and inflexible the movement is. But if you're curious as to what I feel about the game so far, now that unfortunately I can't showcase an actual blind playthrough format, I don't really like this game, guys. It feels very inferior to Silent Hill 2 Remake, and you're not really doing much aside from just running past enemies and solving puzzles. And the combat is really clunky on this game, and a lot of parts just tend to drag out a bit too much.
Rinko?
Yeah, don't even bother engaging with this enemy, just run past it. Yeah, like I said, the enemies are very passive. Yeah, it's literally Resident Evil 1 Remake gameplay right now, just running past everything in a pretty mindless fashion. And this part is a mandatory combat encounter with 3 of these enemies, but it's pretty simple. Sakuko did, really.
神社じゃなくて駄菓子屋の娘に生まれたかったって。ここならいつでも好きなだけお菓子が食べられるよ。おやすみ、咲子。今日はもう閉店だよ。咲子、私やっぱり咲子との約束守りたいよ。
One, and then the other one is up here. There we go. Yeah, I gotta counter this one. And be careful of the plants, don't accidentally step in them. There's the counter. And it's done. Yeah, so Hinako passes out, and I think this place is meant to be the Otherworld, like in Silent Hill. Only it's not like the real world now has like steel girders and more metallic vibe to it. It's a completely different realm. I'll be real, guys, I just don't really see the Silent Hill identity with this particular game. If it didn't have the title Silent Hill, I would have thought this was a different IP entirely. Like, this is a drastically different form of Silent Hill.
どここれは
Okay, now on Lost in the Fog mode, this puzzle's a bit harder. So this goes here. I think this goes here. This goes here. That goes there. And this goes here. Yeah, okay. Good thing I memorized that. But basically it talks about a bunch of plants and trees, and basically like there's mention of plums, chrysanthemum, stuff like that, and so those particular plants are on the items, whether it be like a drawing or something embossed on the outfit, like with that middle figure. That's how you figure it out. Yeah, there was nothing like this in the previous Silent Hill games with a sanity meter. I'm not entirely sure why this happens in the other world. And this guy here is actually a bad guy. Apparently the underlying internal dilemma that Hinako is going through is apparently stuff related to marriage. And so the bad ending of this game is that she gets engaged with this guy, and it's like a toxic relationship. And of course we know that with her mom, she was engaged to an abusive husband, and then Junko left as part of a marriage. And so this fox head guy, there's a fox head version of Hinako as well as her human side. That's at least what I grasped so far, based on what I read.
怪我はないか。怪我をするようなことは私がする。君は体を大事にしなさい。
Hey, I don't think you realized she was teleported there, buddy. What do you mean, don't be reckless?
ありがとう。
それでは行こうか。ひなこ。
Yeah, a lot of these characters just seem to disappear.
こっちだ。
Of course, in this case, she's just wondering where she is.
誰なの？
Yeah, so all of this is just going to be a big walking moment until we get to the part where we have to find 3 Emmas. while or being hunted by certain enemies. It's typical of the Silent Hill series to have many of these walking moments.
ゆっくりで構わないと思う。
And this lantern that Hinako is holding, that's actually in a weapon slot. So you have to swap to it, which is rather bizarre. You'd think she would just automatically pull out her weapon whenever an enemy's nearby, but she doesn't.
来なさい。こっちだ。
What's the significance of the blue light compared to the light she's using? I know blue light seems to have a higher temperature, but what is the relevance of that exactly? So from what I understand, it seems like your weapons have infinite durability when you're in the Otherworld, but when you're in the real world, they have a durability system, which is rather odd.
何の神社？
What type of dogs are these again? I know I've seen these kinds of statues before.
君のために鍵を用意した。案内しよう。こっちだ、ひなこ。
Wow, some reliable companion you are if you keep running ahead like this.
じゃあお前がなんかこれに似た絵を見かけたような。
Yeah, so I think the Emmas are always in the same positions. Like, they're in the same general area, but I don't think they actually change their positions within those areas.
なんでここに？
So here's the puzzle here. It's different between each difficulty. This enemy here is blind. It's simple to deal with, you just counter it. Hit it 3 times, back up. Mind your stamina, of course. There we go, simple. Oh, another one. Is that the one I killed? But it disappears. Oh wait, no. It-
多分これ。
yeah, okay, so they do change positions. I thought it would be the umbrella yokai, but it's not. They're in the same general area, but their positions are different. Oh shit! I think it sees me. No, I think it lost me. Never mind. Oh no, it sees me. No, I didn't want to do that! You can't stop your attack animation once you do it. Alright, there we go. Yeah, as soon as you start a heavy attack animation, you cannot stop it. It's impossible. Oh, there it is. That's what I'm looking for.
あと一つ。
There's also an optional omamori that you can get. Oh, there's the optional omamori. And there's the yokai right there.
よしじゃあお前を試そう
Alright, so the code here is simple on this difficulty. So basically what this means is you look at the number of heads on the carriage, the number of arms on the umbrella, and the number of legs on the kettle. So there's 3 legs on the kettle, there's 4 arms on the umbrella, and there's 2 heads on the carriage, and those are corresponding to the position of the symbol. So since the kettle has 3 legs, you gotta find the 3rd symbol, and the 3rd symbol is that weird reverse S. And then the umbrella is the 4th symbol. And then this one is just the 2nd symbol, with so it's that circle with 2 lines in it.
受け取ってもらえて嬉しい。淡雪の紅玉より削り出して作った。
Where were you the entire time?
私のために
その鍵を稲荷像の
I don't understand what this means when everything goes red like this. Now, coming up is a pretty dumb sequence. So this part right here, you gotta run, but these enemies are really good at catching you. They run way faster than you do. So you gotta use your perfect dodge in order to regain your stamina and keep running. And I messed up, so I'm gonna have to wait. Which way am I going? Okay, this way. Man, this just stuns you a lot. Yeah, that is a pretty dumb sequence.
「先ほどの扉は客人を招くためのものだ。だが、こちらの扉は聖域へ入ることを許された者にしか開かれない。
私は入っていいの
もちろんだとも。君を招くために今日がある。まだ少し歩かねばならないが、しばし休もうか。
大丈夫です
疲れたらすぐに言いなさい。では行こうか。
Wait, wasn't this effect with the disappearing also in Silent Hill 2 Remake? I think I recall it to a certain extent.
ひなこ、しっかりしろ。返事をしろ。よかった。お前は簡単に死ぬようなやつじゃないよな。
シュウはまだ生きてる
サクコは無事だよな。 体どうなってんだ。街から誰もいなくなってる。これは悪い夢なのか。
どこに行っても化け物しかいない。悪夢以外の何者でもないな。
だとしても幸運だったよ。この世界に残ったのが2人だとして、そのもう1人がお前で嬉しいよ、相棒。
リンコは？
俺はあいつに話があるって言われただけで、別にその。
リンコは無事なのか？一緒に逃げたんじゃないのか？
悪い、俺も混乱してたみたいだ。あの時はみんなバラバラに逃げた。俺もリンコの姿は見てない。
こんな状況でリンコはどこへ？
自分の家か。行ってみようぜ、相棒。
I question if these other characters even exist, or if this is just something that Hinako's mind is creating thanks to the power of Ebisugaoka, just like with Silent Hill.
どうした？早く来ないと置いてくぜ。
Seems like everyone does not want to stay together, it seems. It's no wonder you guys get split up so easily.
よし、しっかりしないと。とにかくリンコを見つけなきゃ。
Yeah, so this is just going to be one massive running moment while avoiding these enemies.